The most important thing that businesses need to do in the coming year is to anticipate the future. They cannot do business the way they've done it in the past. The age of their employees and their customers is changing. The needs of those customers are changing. The mix, the racial mix within our population is changing, and there are different purchasing patterns. And for any business that stands on the laurels in the way they've done business in the past will be challenged in the future. All of us need to anticipate the future, understand what's coming in the economy, and reinvent ourselves as individuals, reinvent our businesses. But also, as we heard from the state, we need to think about the future of the state economy and make sure that it's balanced relative to these new demands on the economy coming through all these demographic and societal changes.
They really need to think about their workforce strategy, their labor strategy. Again, it is going to be a very tight labor market, so companies need to think about what can they offer to employees to make sure that they want to come work for them and they want to stay there with them. So they need to be thinking about options like telecommuting and flexible schedules and making sure that the work is, how do I say this, meaningful. But I think that for companies it really is going to be about how do they attract, retain the labor that they need.
So there's an interesting dynamic going on in terms of switching from, baby boomers being the significant share to millennials being the next significant share of the labor force. And what's important to be thinking about is that they do business differently. And looking at how do you bridge that gap or bridge that difference between boomers and millennials. And sometimes boomers laugh about the millennials and their way of being, and similarly the millennials do the same thing about the boomers. And it's looking at how do you bridge that gap, taking advantage of everything that the millennials bring to the table, and then similarly taking advantage of what the boomers have in terms of institutional knowledge.
I think probably since we've seen this dramatic drop in energy prices, I think businesses should take stock to see, is this a net benefit to us or is it going to be a net drag to us? Otherwise, the conditions of last year are probably reasonable for their business planning for this year.
I think one of the other interesting things that came out of today's information, especially about the demographics of the state, is that the Hispanic population is going to grow to about 30 to 35% of the entire state population. And they may have different spending patterns, different investment needs, and so they will be a big part of the future purchasing power of the state economy. And anybody that doesn't pay attention to the Latino and Hispanic market is going to miss a big opportunity in the future.